Hello again and welcome to my shop. Last week I did a video where I made a pen stand, and I mentioned in that video that I was going to be doing a craft show. That craft show was this past weekend, and I got a couple responses and a couple private messages from people asking me to take a little time and do a video about doing craft shows. So today, that's what I'm going to do, is discuss the craft show, how I prepared for it, how it went, and hopefully, if some of you guys are considering doing craft shows, you'll find something beneficial in this video. I want to let you guys know up front that this video is pretty well going to be me just speaking to you. I don't have anything to really demonstrate. I do have a couple of things I'll show you, but it's not going to be a traditional video. So if you're looking for a build video, this video may not be for you. A quick disclaimer before we continue. I am by no means a craft show expert. This was my first show, so I'm just sharing with you what I did to prepare and my thoughts after the show. I've kind of prepared a little outline that I'm going to follow with some notes, and if I can figure out how to do it, I'll post this in a PDF form down in the comments. If you're thinking about going to a show, I highly recommend you start a list of everything you think you're going to need while you're at the show. Now I've got my list here, and I've got things on it like my tent, tables and chairs, decorations and displays, startup money, food. What I'm going to do is put this into PDF format, and I'm going to attempt to put this checklist down in the comments. If I can't get it in the comments, I'll put information in there on an alternative method where you can click and get it. I'll get a little bit closer, and I don't think you can really, there you go, it's focusing a little bit. But it's just a checklist, and it's got little boxes on it. It's really simple, really down and dirty. But as I was preparing for the show, I could just check things off as I put them in the box. So if you print this list out and use it as a good starting point, you'll be able to add things to it that you think you'll need that maybe I didn't. Mine was basically geared toward pens. You may have cutting boards and bowls or any other items that you may have. Make sure that you tailor this to your needs. Also, don't just think about what you need to sell. Think about yourself, personal comforts. What things are you going to need? Do you think you're going to need a jacket? If it's going to be sunny, will you need some sunglasses or maybe a hat? Think about personal needs and get those on your list as well. Also, be sure after you check everything off the list and get it packed into your vehicle that you take this list with you to the show and add items to it that you didn't anticipate ahead of time. I had several things that I didn't anticipate that I added to the list. After the show is over, think back. Is there anything that would have made this show better that you can add to your list? And when you do that, keep this list handy. I put it in Excel format, so I've got it on a thumb drive in a craft show folder. I can pull it up anytime I need, and it'll make the next show easier because you're not going to have to put all that thought into it. You're just going to print off a copy of your list, grab your items, check them off, and hit the show. And I think it's going to make show number 2, 3, etc. a whole lot easier. It's a really good idea, if at all possible, to have a second person in your booth. You're going to need bathroom breaks. You're going to want to run and get a bite to eat. You might need somebody to work with a second customer, because there are many times where you're working with one customer and another person comes up who's interested in your product. So try to get a second person to go with you to the show. I highly recommend pre-staging your table at home prior to going to the show. I've got a little footage I'll show in a second of my table where I pre-staged it. It makes a huge difference when and go ahead and lay it out just like it's going to be at the show. I didn't put my pins on it, but I went ahead and I put my tablecloth on it. I put my risers on it, my pin displays, my decorations. I got everything laid out to where I thought it was going to look really nice. I took a couple of photographs on my phone, so when I got to the show, I could look back and reference that as I set up. That makes a huge difference. I found several things I hadn't thought about by doing this. I recommend pre-staging your table at home to kind of get an idea of how you want it to look and how you want it laid out. It's also a good time to think about decorations. I highly recommend decorating based on the theme of the craft show, and if there is no theme to the craft show, then decorate based on the closest season. decorations for your table. You're going to need a little something to kind of spice up your table. You really don't want to overdo it with a ton of decorations, but just a couple of small items that stay with the theme of the show, or if the show doesn't really have a theme, maybe the next up holiday. If it's Thanksgiving, if it's Halloween, get some pumpkins out there, maybe a little turkey, whatever. Anything to kind of give your booth a little decoration and make it feel kind of in the spirit of the holiday or in the theme of the show. Once you arrive at the show and you've got your tent up, you've got your table set up, you've got your displays out, generally you do that before the show starts, I recommend taking a couple of photographs of your booth. This will be great because later, after the show is over, you can go back and look at your photographs and kind of think, you know, this didn't really work over here, maybe I should move that over here. It gives you a chance to really kind of look back, reflect on your table, and improve it for the next show. Also, maybe it worked great, and when you get to the next show, you want to do the exact same setup. So take a couple of photographs once you're all set up. Take them of your tent, of your booth, just the whole area, so that you can use those to help improve the overall process. If this happens to be your first show, I highly recommend befriending and talking to the vendors around you. They are a wealth of information. Many of them have been doing this for years, and you're going to learn a lot about doing shows from them. So take advantage of that resource. Let's talk about business cards. Do not go to a show without them. I'm not saying contact a professional printer and pay a fortune to have cards printed up. Go to your office supply store. Avery sells Avery business cards. You get 500 of them in a box. They're not very expensive. You go to avery.com. You can download a template for your word processor. Then basically plug in your contact information. You've got your company name on there. You've got maybe a little logo. You've got your name, your address, your telephone number, your email address, and make the whole box up. Make these available to your customers. I kept them on the table. People picked them up as they were talking to me. If anyone seemed very interested but didn't look like they were going to buy anything, I handed them a card and said, hey, if you need anything, give me a call. Every time I made a sale, I included a business card in the bag with the item that they purchased. So take advantage. These are cheap and they're a great way to advertise. Somebody may not buy anything at the show, but they may get home and think, you know, I got a gift coming up. I need this. They'll give you a call and you might get a future sale out of it. I mentioned bags. Everybody wants a bag. Now, you don't need to spend a ton of money there either. My items were small. Ink pens, seam rippers, keychains. I went to the dollar store and purchased white, they look like lunch bags that you used to carry to school. Solid white, no design on them. I went to my office supply store and I bought some stickers. They're the kind used for name tags that you would print a name tag on. I printed all of my information that was on my business card on those labels, and prior to the show, I stuck those labels. I printed up about 150 to 200 bags, and I stuck those labels to them, and then each time I made a sale, I wrapped my pen or my seam ripper, whatever it was, in some tissue paper, put it in the bag, I dropped my business card in there with it, folded the bag over, my information was on the outside of it, gave it to the customer. So my contact information is all over the place. So if they get home and decide, man, I'd really like to have another one of these, they're going to know how to get a hold of me. So it's a cheap way to advertise. Take advantage of it. Pricing. This is the elephant in the room. Pricing's tough because different areas of the country, different shows in the same area are going to demand different prices. If you're just at a general craft show versus a juried show, you're probably going to make more money on an item at a juried show than you will at a general craft show. It's really difficult to tell someone how to price their item because it is so different for every situation. What I tried to do is take roughly what I thought my time was worth. Then I take the cost of all of my materials, and don't forget to include your sandpaper, your glue, the drill bits, the time it takes to drill. And you obviously aren't going to know down to the cent what all that stuff is worth, but you might throw another dollar on the product to cover the consumables. And then basically I'll put my time, my consumables, and the cost of my materials together. It gives me a starting price. I'll kind of look at it and say, okay, would I pay that for this pen? No, that's way too much. So maybe I'll back it down a couple dollars. Or, wow, that sounds awful cheap compared to what I've seen at other shows. So I may move it up a few dollars. You kind of got to play with it. I'm going to give you a tip that I stole from David Picciuto, the drunken woodworker. He said, whatever you do, never change your prices at a show. Stick to it. Even if it means the show's going to be a bust, stick to your prices. Wait till the next show to raise or lower your prices. I like to keep an inventory of my pens, and once again, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and I keep information in there like the pen kit, what it cost, the blank, what it cost. So I've got my cost. I have a field where I plug in what I'm going to charge for the pen, and then I've got a third field that shows my profit on the pen. This is my inventory. Each pen gets a character and a number. My acrylics are A1, 2, 3, 4. My antler blanks are D for deer, 1, 2, 3, 4. My wood blanks are W, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every item gets a number, a unique number, and I can look at that number and know exactly which pen it was. Now the reason for that is, after the show, I can go through and mark off all the pens that sold. I'll know what were the best sellers, so I can get some more of those for the next show. If they sold really well, maybe my price isn't high enough. We're going to jump back to price for a second. I might bump it up $2 or $3. If I didn't sell a single one of them, I have one style pen, a classic, I only sold one of during the show. So the next show, I'm going to drop it $2 or $3 and see if I can move some of those pens. It's also good to keep an inventory list like this, because if something was really hot and sold well, I want to know, I keep my product number on there and where I purchased it from. I want to go back and purchase more of those because they're a good seller. And last but not least, at the end of the show, you can go through your remaining inventory and you can tell if anything was stolen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. It did not happen to me. It was a great show, but you need to keep track of that information because you've got to eat that cost. I mentioned a second ago that all of my items get a letter and a number to identify them. I also include that on the tag. Every item has its own tag. I don't just put a sign out that says, classic pens, X dollars. I tag each pen individually. On the tag, I put acrylic. It might be an acrylic pen, so it'll be A1, and I'll put on there classic pen and the price. You can buy tags at the office supply store, or you can do what I did and make tags. While I was sitting in the evenings relaxing watching TV, I took a manila folder and I cut it into 1 inch by 1 inch squares. I took a hole punch and punched a hole in the corner, and then I took some kite string and I tied a loop through the hole in the tag, and I was able to attach those to my pens. That worked out really well because as I sold a pen, I would simply clip the tag, drop it in my money box, and that allowed me to compare that to my inventory list and know exactly what I sold during the show. After the show, take a few minutes and just review your list, review your notes. Think about, at the next show, what's going to make it better. Maybe you want to change it up and have a different display. Maybe the next show is closer to Christmas, so you want to change your decorations. Just kind of put some thought into it immediately after the show while everything is fresh in your mind, and this will make your next show an even bigger success. Make sure you have a cash box with adequate cash to make change. If you don't have a lot of change, it never fails. The first person that walks through the door is going to buy something for 20 bucks, and they're going to hand you a $100 bill, and they're going to clean you out. So make sure you have a couple of $100 in change. You want to take some 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. And if you're going to need some change, you want to make sure you have your quarters, dimes, whatever. Also, I highly, highly recommend getting a Square. You can go out and Google Square. It's a credit card device that hooks into your Android phone or your iPhone and basically lets you swipe credit cards. They are extremely easy to use. They are absolutely free. When you use them, they charge 2.75% on any swiped transaction. which is not a lot of money. That's $2.75 per every $100 that you take in. Yes, you do lose a little bit of money, but you don't lose a sale. I had a number of customers, the first thing they asked is, do you take credit cards? Why not go ahead and get the Square and be able to do that? Otherwise, you stand to lose those sales. Also, before you go to the show, I didn't do this, and it's something I added to my list after the fact. Make yourself an order form. There's going to be customers that are going to say, wow, I really like this one, but I want it in pink. Okay? Get an order form to where you can take down their information. Any orders that I took, I charged half of the cost up front. That's to make sure the person doesn't back out. It also helps me to cover the materials. Also, do not forget to include shipping charges on that form. If the person is not local, if they're from out of town, or if you happen to be from out of town visiting a show, you'll want to make sure you get your shipping charges on there as well. That pretty well sums up everything I wanted to talk about. I will attempt to get the outline as well as my show checklist in PDF form and try to get them in the comments below. If not, I do promise, like I said before, I will put the information down there to where you can locate these documents in the event I can't get them down there. Now, just to talk a little bit about my first show. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort, preparing for the show, making the pins up front, getting all of this together. It was very overwhelming for a couple of weeks. However, now that I've done it, I've got an outline. I think it's going to make future shows easier. I do plan to do some other shows. Did I do well at the show? Not as well as I would have liked. One thing you want to do if you're going to go to a show is research the show a little bit. I didn't do that. I just signed up. Because I didn't research the show, because I didn't request where I want it to be, I got stuck down at the far end of a side street. The show, the main street of the show, people could not move. They were shoulder to shoulder packed in like sardines. But down the side streets, no one was venturing down there. So while we did make some sales, had we known that and got ourselves up closer to where the action was, I think we could have easily doubled sales. So research your show, know what you're getting into. All in all, the show was a great experience. It was a huge learning experience. I did take advantage of my neighbors at the show, like I mentioned earlier. I've got great ideas for my next show. I don't know when that'll be. I'm hoping to get another one in this year. If not, then we'll start planning for some shows next year. But this was a great experience. Any of you interested in doing a show, I strongly urge you to step out of your comfort zone and give it a try. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop tonight. I hope that you found this information useful. I hope it helps you to be better prepared if you're going to do a craft show. I want you guys to know that you're always welcome in my shop, and I look forward to seeing you again soon with another video. If you like what you saw today, hit that like button. Leave me a comment. I answer all comments. I answer all questions. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there so that as I make videos in the future, they'll be delivered directly to you as I upload them. Have a great night, and I hope to see you again real soon.